Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Ives number 582A in a black finish. This is a double hook is what it is. I call it a wardrobe hook. I have one removed here from the packaging so we can take a closer look at it. The base material is aluminum, and this is what they call a black epoxy finish. This would I'm not familiar with black epoxy as a epoxy paint as a process, but it certainly does not look like it's been powder coated. Has a bit too much sheen for that, and has a smoother surface than powder coat. So it's a nice, clean, relatively clean black finish on this type of hook. 582 is representative of the profile of this item, its dimensional properties. The A in the part number stands for the fact that it's made of an aluminum-based material. A part number that involves the letter B by Ives is a part number that would be made of brass. So when you see A preceding a part number, it's likely made of aluminum. So some basic dimensional properties here. Overall length of the item, about 2 7/8. Overall height, about 1 5/8 inches. Overall projection, about 1 1/8 inches. Okay, it's going to include a couple of fasteners and a complementary finish. Now there is a link to the manufacturer's page down below. Let's take a look at that, and we'll look at some other hook options from Ives. So this is the item that we're looking at here, and by the time you're seeing this video, there'll be some images associated with it. But that's the link to the manufacturer's page, and when you click on that, we're going to come to the manufacturer's page within our site where you can pull up their catalog. So let's open up that link to the catalog, the 2018 catalog. And if you recall, our part number was 582. Find function on your keyboard or Control F for 582 will allow you to find page, a cut sheet, we might call this. Okay, 582 double wardrobe hook. Lots of information here in terms of finishes. Compact double hook is perfect where space is limited, such as behind doors where low profile is needed. Indeed, it doesn't stand off the door very much at all. Its projection in aluminum is 1 3/32 of an inch, and that actually strikes at an important note. It does run in the Ives line where those items made of brass and those items made of aluminum have different dimensional properties. So always refer to your template before you assume that you have the exact size of the item. Nothing, or the technical drawing, I should say. Nothing comes to mind when it comes to mortising for hardware, because I can't think of any hardware that is made of aluminum and brass and has a machining template applied to it or associated with it. But I have had clients order something and say, hey, this doesn't match the dimensions on the property, doesn't match the dimensional properties on the drawing. And then we discover with the client, yeah, you quoted brass, you're looking at a brass item, but then you ordered aluminum or whatever the case might be. So be mindful of that. There are different dimensional properties for brass and aluminum on this 582. Made of cast brass or cast aluminum or zinc. I'm not sure. Yeah, they'll have a zinc base material with a Z619E. So what they're saying here is zinc. 619 is satin nickel equivalent. So we're using the letter E to mean equivalent. In that brass base material, you get a lot of different finish options. Your brasses, your bronze, your nickels. They'll even do black over brass, which is very likely a powder-coated finish. Actually, no, I'm not sure how they would put black onto brass. I'm going to imagine it's going to be a powder coat. And why you might want a brass base material is because it's a more durable base material compared to aluminum. Will certainly be less brittle. That's to be sure. Different finishes on aluminum are listed here. Now, elsewhere in this catalog, you're going to find all these other hooks as you just move up and move down in the catalog slightly. The very typical 405 hook. We don't sell a bunch of those today. This style of hook was popular decades ago. The 571, of course, is ubiquitous. And again, a different design when you have a brass or aluminum base material. 572 is probably the most common. I believe that they have different shapes for this material, is probably because they have an investment in tooling. You know, an Ives product catalog likely did not have cast aluminum coat hooks in it. It was probably all brass. And when they brought in aluminum at some point, and I'm just imagining here, they couldn't or didn't or would not use the same mold for casting. And they'd have to change the mold a little bit to give the aluminum some strength. That's probably why they did that. The 574 is not uncommon. Neither are the 580 is very common, the ceiling hook. 575 is somewhat common. 581, we sell that one all the time. That's a nice little hook made in brass and in aluminum base material. The double version of that, 582, we're talking about here. And that wraps it up for the catalog. So that manufacturer's page will get you to that catalog where you can review all your options. All the other Ives products that we sell are listed along with a link to the manufacturer's website. Any sort of encyclopedic documents that are associated with a manufacturer, we will always post to that manufacturer's page. We have an Ives pivot catalog. I would very much recommend that you review Ives when it comes to pivots. Their name is certainly not the most common name when it comes to pivot hardware, but they do a real good job with pivots, especially from the perspective of someone who has not installed pivots before. The installation instructions associated with Ives pivots are more accessible to the beginner. They're not intimidating with a page that has, you know, as many dimensions as a space shuttle on it, it seems. So if you're new to pivots, you'll want to maybe look at the Ives catalog and their templates or their installation instructions. That may allow you an easier on-ramp, so to speak, into the world of pivots. Allegion Technical Manual. Allegion is the parent company of Ives. Not sure why that didn't load. We'll sort that out. We have a couple of quite old Ives catalogs here. If you want to see what Ives was making in 1904, well, there's the catalog to look at it. Not nearly as much hardware as they have now, but as Ives was brought under the Allegion umbrella, or it may have been Ingersoll Rand and then Allegion, Ives needs to be a part of a larger cohesive environment with her sister companies, Schlage, lock sets, Von Duprin exit devices, LCN door closers, Glenn Johnson door controls. Ives is going to be the trim and auxiliary hardware, along with some hinges as well. And Ives did not historically manufacture hinges, but they do now because Allegion needed a hinge manufacturer to go along with all of her other hardware, I would think, etc. Templates are here as well. Let's wrap up this video on camera. Okay, in conclusion, a nice, clean-looking, inexpensive hook from Ives. Very typical, very common. Black is a very popular finish nowadays. It's the year 2020, and it has been for a couple, 3 years, and it will probably continue for a while. Historically, black has been a finish that has been available. In 1920, you could have bought black trim. Lots of other unusual finishes. Black seems to be a color, 20 years ago you couldn't get hardware in black. It just wasn't offered. But as the tide of market demand changes, the manufacturers react, sometimes a little slow, but they do. And you can get black hardware in lots of different options. You'll be able to buy every type of hardware ultimately you need in black. The question really becomes with finishes is what is the process of finish? If you ordered hinges, they're not going to be epoxy. And again, not sure about epoxy in terms of that process, but it's a smoother finish than powder coat, and it has a higher sheen as well. So you want to be mindful that when you're talking about black, are you talking about like what Assa Abloy would call black suede powder coat, or is it just flat black? or is it, you know, some other variant of black like epoxy? So you've got some variation that could creep into the conversation. But what you'll want to do is adhere to a BHMA finish code for black and make sure that you can get that finish code on all the different manufacturers' items. Then you'll have the best chance of everything matching. And while it will not be exact, because finish is as much art as it is science, it will at least adhere to the same standard. Any question on the 582 hook by Ives or any other Ives product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.